Did you guys? Find the right one? I've got 6:30. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Scott McCarney,
Here.
Jeremy Hansen,
Here.
Jason Weesey,
Here.
Travis Kramer,
Here.
Paul Kraus.
Here. The Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall. Item 4, consent agenda. I can't think of anything that we need to pull out separate. Does anybody have a request for pulling out anything separately?
Arrow management fee, what's that?
That's an annual fee we get, and I can't remember why, but we ask this every year, and it's just, that's what we pay the railroad. It's just what it's.
Slow maintenance or agreement or something.
It's a right of way type of agreement that we have with them that we have to pay every year. It doesn't make sense that they come through our town and we pay them, but maybe back in the day it did when they stopped and, provided services, but
I think some of our stuff goes through their right of way.
Yeah.
That the railroad has, like our sewers. I think we cross sewer on there.
maybe that's,
what
yeah.
it is. It's basically a rent on some of the ground.
Yeah, I know they're pretty particular when it comes to.
Yeah.
If there's no other question, we just need a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda as presented. If there's no further discussion, let's vote on that motion.
Jeremy Hansen,
Aye.
Jason Weesey,
Aye.
Travis Kramer,
Aye.
Scott McCarney,
Item 5, approval of minutes. Item A, regular board meeting from March 20, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the board minutes from 3/2023 as read or presented.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the March 20th, 2023 board meeting minutes as presented. If there's no further discussion, let's vote on that motion.
Jason Weesey,
Aye.
Travis Kramer,
Aye.
Scott McCarney,
Aye.
Jeremy Hansen,
Aye.
Paul Kraus.
Aye. Item B, April 11th, 2023 planning commission meeting minutes. And remember, these minutes will have to, we didn't get it in time to post for a hearing for the variance request, so we'll be going over that at our next meeting.
And Charlie's block.
Charlie's law line, yeah. It didn't sound like either one of them was in a huge hurry. I talked to Mike Dwyer tonight. So we'll get it posted and have a hearing before our next meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the planning commission minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the April 11th, 2023 planning commission meeting minutes. If there's no further discussion, let's vote on that motion.
Travis Kramer,
Aye.
Scott McCarney,
Aye.
Jeremy Hansen.
Aye.
Jason Weesey.
Aye.
Paul Kraus.
Aye. Item 7, streets committee report. We don't really have anything new other than we did have a meeting for the pavement improvement project. We went over trying to fine tune some issues with the school there. Talked about some curbs that they wanted.
Ones that are drivable, ones that are higher, they're direct flow traffic. They talked about the entryways for the school parking lot.
Yeah.
Concerns that they had on the S curve or semis being able to pull one direction and then back into the kitchen. Trying to think of other things that were.
I think mostly it was just widening that entrance. They had the entrance a little tight on the south side, so. A lot of talk about how they're gonna schedule 3 different projects that take 6 to 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And try and get it all done in 6 weeks. It's gonna be a challenge when we get to that, I'm sure, but hopefully. We can work through that with minimal. It shouldn't take as long as their expansion project did, so. Anything else to add on that part?
I think the
If not,
meeting was good.
yeah, it was good, I thought. With that, I think we'll let Austin talk. Austin, you're here on behalf of.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Austin. I work with Tobin Buchanan at First National. Apologize, Tobin couldn't be here tonight, in another board meeting, but when he saw the location of the project, he got kind of excited because it was by the school, of course, but no, I just thought I could be here just to share a little bit of information with you as you're talking about kind of planning for the paving projects. When it comes to the financing or looking at a potential bond to finance the project, and can maybe share some preliminary numbers with you just to give you a general idea of what that might look like, if that's kind of what you had wanted this evening. Can kind of just give a high level overview of that. So I'll pass this out to start. So this is a debt map that we put together. So this just shows the current outstanding bonds that the village has. So there's 3 bonds outstanding, 2 of which are general obligation bonds. I'll kind of ignore that 2021 combined utility, the revenue bond. That's really paid for from the villages. Yep, utility revenues. So between the 2 general obligation bonds, one of those, the current highway allocation bond that the village has outstanding that we did back in 2020, and then the 2016 GO bonds, I believe that was a refinancing of the old pool bonds. So 4 more payments to go on those, but between those 2, just over $1 million outstanding, which is roughly equal to about 1% of the village's current assessed valuation. And so a good rule of thumb, typically we say, is anything that's at or under 5% of your assessed valuation. So your debt that you have outstanding compared to your assessed valuation, that number is around or under 5%. That's considered a fairly strong number. And so big picture, as you're thinking about just total debt outstanding for the village, if you were to look at putting then 2.4 million on top of the current general obligation bonds that you have outstanding, so that would bring you up to about 3.5% of your debt to your overall assessed valuation. So still would be considered a fairly strong number. So that would be a good idea, just maybe a good starting point. One, just to keep your bond payments organized, but also just it's a good planning tool as well. So for the project, similar to the current highway allocation bonds that you have outstanding, that's probably one of the most common financing options that a lot of cities and villages will utilize when you're looking at just mostly a paving project. If there's not a significant water or sewer component that's involved, if it's mostly paving, that's probably one of the most common and really most straightforward types of bonds to finance those types of paving projects. So I can hand this out. These are just some some preliminary numbers that Tobin and I put together. And maybe just a quick recap too. So with the highway allocation bond, the primary repayment source really are the highway allocation dollars that the village receives every year from the state. So that, and I believe for this fiscal year, you received about 169,000 in highway allocation revenues. And I was trying to look at what you've received in the past. I think that was up about 20,000 from last year. I think you've got about 150,000 last year. So that's really your primary repayment source for highway allocation bonds. You can also, so in the extent that the village ever falls short, if your highway allocation dollars are ever not enough to cover your bond payments for highway allocation, you can look at levying a property tax. So that levy would be outside your current 45-cent levy lid. And so that would be levied in your bond fund. It's unlimited, so not subject to levy limits. And so it's really what we call a double barrel. It's your primary security or repayment source are the highway allocation revenues, but you can also look at putting a levy on if you need to, if your highway allocation revenues aren't enough to cover your total bond payments. So that's what, so ran these numbers, this 2.4 million based on the current estimates I think we have from JEO. Thought this would be a good starting point. I can just kind of share at a high level what your payments would look like for that bond, where interest rates are at, and then we can kind of look at some coverage numbers too on that back page. So just at a high level, current interest rates this is for a 20-year highway allocation bond, just like your the highway allocation bond you issued in 2020. That was a 20-year bond. Interest rates right now, right at about 4.2%. I will say we're starting to see interest rates in the bond market pull back a little bit. That's probably a fairly conservative number. We've seen two things I think that are helping us a little bit. One, we're starting to see some better than expected inflation numbers start to come in. And then also we're starting to see the Federal Reserve kind of slow their interest rate hikes a little bit. So they're slowing down their pace. And so what's happening then is the bond market is starting to price in where they think those long-term bond prices or interest rates are expected to be. And so I think that's helped kind of pull things back a little bit. If we see, it's also been fairly volatile. So we'll kind of keep you updated if we see that trend continue here kind of throughout the summer and into the fall, which we expect it to do so. But based on that, so a $2.4 million bond, that right-hand column, that total principal and interest, that would be your total annual payment on the bonds. So right at about $180,000 on average for a $2.4 million bond issue over 20 years. And if you flip to that second page, then that's where we looked at coverage based on your current highway allocation revenues. So the proposed bonds, that would be this bond, the $180,000 payment. That second column, that's your existing payment on your current 2020 highway allocation bonds. And so your total, so then if you add those two together, the total highway allocation bond payments would average about $245,000 a year. Compare that to you're currently receiving about $169,000. So there is a gap or a shortfall of about $75,000 based on what you're currently receiving and then what you would be projecting for your total bond payments. If you wanted to do the full $2.4 million right away, I think Kate had mentioned maybe looking at a phased approach, and we can visit about that as well, but thought that might be a good starting point for the discussion. And I'll maybe just pause there and get your feedback on thoughts, or if you want me to talk about a phased approach to just one quick, one question we often get on this is, are we then pledging all of our highway allocation revenues towards repaying the bonds, meaning are we then just not able to touch our highway allocation revenues as they come in? And the answer to that would be no. It's really a limited pledge. So if you got something that comes up during the year, if you have patching work that needs done or an emergency comes up and you've got to deal with that in that fiscal year, you can use those dollars for qualifying projects. So it's got to be paving, but you can use those dollars to take care of those projects. We would just, if you're unable to move things around in your current budget for that year, then we would probably just want to visit with you about levying that in your bond fund to just make sure you have enough for that payment that year. So I know it's a lot, but that would be a good starting point. Would be happy to talk more about, and we got more number of scenarios too, if you wanted to look at that phased approach. Kate and I kind of talked about what if we looked at doing the A costs, the 1.4 million maybe this year, and then coming back and looking at the remainder of the project in next year, the following few years. So we could visit about that too, or if you just had general questions, feel free to just throw those out. I'd be happy to.
My biggest question is, if we're bidding this project this fall for next year's construction season, when do we have to have the financing in place?
Yeah, so it's up to you. You don't have, it's typically advisable to have your bids in prior to passing your bond ordinance, because that's.
But we can wait till after that bid process.
You can wait.
Okay,
Yep.
This is how we're gonna finance it.
You can, yeah. So you don't have to do it right away. If you're bidding this summer and you really don't need the funds until spring of next year, whenever it may be.
I would anticipate that May of 24 is gonna be the start date of construction.
May.
Is that what
Yeah.
you guys thought? Yeah,
Yeah, so if you need funds by May to start paying construction invoices, you can get your ordinance in place. Once you have those bids, you probably have a fairly good estimate on what the total project cost would be. And so we can come out and get that bond ordinance in place this fall, just so you have it in place. We can kind of get started on all the legal documents, putting together the official statement, which we'll use to then go out and market or sell the bond. So we'll kind of get all the paperwork out of the way come then start of the year, January, February, we can come back out, kind of share, here's where interest rates are at. If we continue to see them come down, I was just talking to Tobin earlier, we probably don't see any reason to rush into locking in interest rates right now. If it was, when we were out here in 2020,
They were ridiculously low.
21,
yeah.
it would probably be a little bit of a different conversation because those were just historically low interest rates. It probably made more sense to move a little bit more quickly on just getting your interest rate locked in, getting the funds in place. This is a little bit different of an environment. We don't see a lot of risk in waiting. Don't see a lot of risk in rates jumping up on us 1% or 1.5%. We probably have more likelihood that they'll continue to kind of trickle down. So yeah, we've got plenty of timing, if you consider that ordinance later in this year, and then you don't actually look to issue the bonds in, early next year. And that's when the interest clock starts ticking. And so we'll try to kind of line that up based on when you would need funds then.
I don't know if the question's for you or if it's more for Kate, but I believe Paul and I were told that if you start to make investments in your streets, new paving, et cetera, that your highway allocation from the state typically increases over time.
That's what you were talking about with the 20,000. You thought that $20,000 increase was probably tied to our last project, right?
It probably was, yeah. So I was just having the same conversation with another city and yes, exactly.
Okay.
So and I haven't looked.
And I understand you have the conservative estimate of it still at 169 throughout that entire
So
time.
we could reasonably expect that a project that was more than the last one would get us at least another 20,000.
You probably could, and we can run that if you want to see kind of where that is.
I'm good at the conservative number. I just wanted to go.
Yeah.
I just was
really fair, but
something that we had heard. I just wanted to make sure that was accurate.
And that's-
I don't know who the question is.
yeah, that's true. I haven't, Kate had sent me the actual project of what JEO had run. But if it's, if you're improving, if you're extending, if you're annexing, then the state will increase your highway allocation based on the projects.
We could put if we could, let's say we had 600,000 in sales tax. If we didn't spend it between now and that, how much would we get that would bring the payment down? If we put, let's just say 500,000 of sales tax, instead of getting a $2.5 million, $2.4 million.
If you just pay it down, so instead maybe looking at a 1.9 or $2 million bond, we could look at that. Maybe we could rerun those numbers. And share that with you out, maybe just in an email, if that would be helpful. I've got,
I mean, would it be roughly 1/5 of this total payment number off?
Yes.
Roughly?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, you could do it that way too. And actually, I've got an estimate that's gonna be close here, so I'll just hand this out to you, just so you have it. This shows more of a phased approach, so looking at 1.4 this year, technically next fiscal year. And then coming back with 500, which would actually put you right at the 1.9. So you can actually probably see that on the, it's going to be on the last page here. So if you just turn that completely around and you look at your total principal and interest payment, so roughly 200 to 210,000 in annual payments compared to what we were talking about, the that's
243,000, 245.
yeah, the 2.5. So.
That's not really something we've talked about yet, but I think if we've got that kind of reserve and we haven't had to use it for anything, that might not be a bad idea to do
Yeah,
that.
might be a good discussion just to see if we could pay it down any. So.
The only concern I have is that wiping out our entire highway allocation, paying bonds rather than allowing any of it to be used to pay for, regular street repairs. I mean, that's my only concern, because right now we have roughly 100,000 that we use for other things for streets.
And I don't know if JEO's talked to you about if you've looked at specials or had that conversation yet about special assessments. I don't know if that was a route that you wanted to.
We don't think that we have to do assessments on this because
Okay.
it's already hard surfaced. It was just, we're doing it with concrete instead of
Sure.
asphalt, so.
Okay. Yeah.
The last road we didn't make any assessments. So,
Yeah, in that case, really, probably highway allocation would be your best option. There are other options, but if you're not looking at special assessment, highway allocation is typically where 90% of cities and villages will do these types of projects.
So once we get a better idea of the project cost, we can tune this in a little more, and then we can kind of focus more on how much and what those payments are, what we're safe, what we're comfortable with to spend on a payment, and then maybe the interest rates will keep coming down.
Yeah, and we can run a variety of those scenarios.
Yeah.
If you want to look at like what if we pay it down, use our entire sales tax to pay it down to 1.9. What if we use half of it? What would a phased approach, and it just keep you updated. We'll just Open and I will just kind of keep watching and see what they do kind of over the summer and fall, and if anything material changes, we'll just keep in contact. But yeah, you can come back out maybe when you've got a better estimate and can kind of walk you through the numbers at that time and talk to you again. So
Sounds good.
Sounds good. And then the rest of the board, you guys have seen where the project could be phased, right? The different parts of it and the different. Right
So
down,
it's, yeah, it's,
instead of paying the 2.4 to the 1 point.
you can do this.
So if you guys have questions,
And then do a,
Yeah, and then do eight.
and
or
and
part of it.
Dodge Street could go either way. We were kind of talking about Dodge Street going either with the big project or with 8th Street. It's kind of hard to. Yeah. Hard to decide how to split up Dodge.
Thank you very much for your information.
Yeah, thanks for having me out. I apologize.
That gives us some numbers.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I love how you got the existing and.
Yep.
Yep, that's great.
So, yeah, and if you want that updated, Kate's got my contact or he got Tobin's, so just reach out to us and we can just send a, update or just visit over the phone, and if it gets closer, we're always happy to come back out and just use you as a resource for you, so.
We really appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks for your time.
Dave Travis.
Thank you.
Do we need any other discussion on the street projects at this time, or just kind of waiting on those guys to come back with? All right, water sewer, people services report. James handed out, reports when we got here.
It's just the numbers on board in there. No numbers. As far as what was done, of course. Samples were taken and came back to us. I did talk to Mike, looks like electric pump came out and they copied the current SCADA program. So when they come in to put new stuff, everything works the way it's supposed to. Pressure tests were done on some of the hydrants with the guy Darren from ISO. As soon as I get that information, I'll put it on the map. Probably gonna give some Dan here. Now that I'm back here, I gotta get back in touch with Trek, get the sewer cleaning plan taken care of. Hopefully I'll have that for next meeting. And then Mike and Jason will be flushing hydrants next week. Not sure exactly what dates. I told Kate about it. Be sometime between 8 and 4, but I don't know what days. Be next week. They should get them all taken care of.
Something we talked about today was we'd like to see some numbers before the fair starts on their usage down there, so we can kind of, maybe that'll help us gauge things before and after the fair.
Yeah, I've had a problem getting in down there. I don't know if you guys have a better contact.
Who have you been?
I don't remember name. I have to go through my phone, but I know John Hinton doesn't return any of my phone calls anymore. And then I talked to another guy. And he said they were having a meeting that night, that he'd get back to me, and then he said, John's the guy to talk to.
Okay. We'll look into that a little more and find out what the problem is there. Because everybody that I had talked to said that they were, more than willing to, whatever we need.
And that's what I heard too, until it's, okay, hey, I gotta come see these things.
Yeah.
And then nobody's.
Okay. We'll work on that, figure out what the deal is there. That's about all we had. We discussed that briefly, and I don't think we had anything else, did you?
No.
We had a complaint about brown water from that testing that you're talking about. So I guess if we know that's gonna happen, apparently that stirred up quite a bit of stuff in his neighborhood. If we have advance notice of that, I guess I would treat that just like a hydrant flush.
Yep.
See if we can let people know.
Yeah, I didn't know that was going on.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do Facebook for the hydrant flush next week and then maybe the post office or?
Yeah, I was gonna
What do you
post
think?
it at the bank, the post office, Facebook, our website, just all the places.
Perfect.
But yeah, flushing hydrants just in between the systems is never a good idea. It's gonna do that.
Mm.
Be flushing from one end of town to the other. Definitely reduces. That area of town getting all of the.
That's a different story than I heard last week, but thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That's what I've been told. I've been told is wrong.
No, I'll
I'd
have
say
to
that's-
figure out what's right. Now I'd like to know, so.
I'll research it.
We'll find out when you start flushing.
Well, we know that sort of stuff. It was,
Yeah.
the statement that I heard was that this shouldn't have caused much problem.
Oh, the
You're
text.
telling me that when they go between them, that's never a good thing.
Oh, you're saying the testing?
Yeah,
Well, that anytime from what I've heard, anytime that you disrupt the system and you don't do it in order,
Mm,
it's gonna cause a bigger
I
problem.
want it to go
You need
downstream.
it to flush
Yeah,
out.
yeah, okay. All right. Well, that makes sense to me. We've got some notice in there that Fremont did raise our rates slightly. I don't know, we don't know yet how much that's gonna affect us.
I don't think it should be as bad as it was.
It didn't look like as large an increase as we took last time.
Well, the last time I think they didn't increase you for a while and then they just threw one at you for I think it was a few years or something. So this one hopefully won't be that bad.
What's the amount? Do you know what it is? Cause it's not in here, is it?
We don't know yet.
It's down, it's down into the clerk's report.
Oh,
It's down there.
What is there?
It's, yeah,
yeah, both ordinances are under the clerk's report. Just mentioned it in the clerk's report.
Got a page number, anybody?
still lower than.
Page 74?
Seven F B. A and B. Still lower in lift station flow, is that just, you think it's still drier than it was last year, or do you think we're making headway on some of these projects?
I think it's gonna be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
At least I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I think the lining of the main that we line, I think that's gonna end up showing that was a huge.
Yeah, I can't wait to get through a real rainy season and see a big difference from before, that'll be nice,
That's what I'm hoping.
so. Anybody have it? Go ahead.
I see on here, see the water usage report. I know that I've been trying to give Kate some numbers on that.
Oh, yeah.
For
Yeah, we were
Travis.
gone last week, so-
So I wasn't here for that meeting.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was discussed. I do have. I tried sending Mike a message about all this stuff. So I didn't know what you talked about. There is a lot of stuff that isn't metered.
Right.
Did he go over that?
We really didn't get into that.
I think John was able to tell us what was metered and what isn't.
Oh,
We have meters at the pool and we were just kind of curious as to, how much of those things are the pool and the ball fields and, what we're not getting paid for.
well, I think,
Obviously, the fairgrounds would be part of that.
yeah, the fair is gonna be huge and all the stuff that they do out there. I wasn't even thinking about the ball fields and the, sprinklers and
Yeah.
water in the grass.
Maybe this,
That's
before they start watering this summer, maybe we'll go down and get readings off them and read them at the end of the summer.
It'd be good to have some sort of benchmark. At least we have an
I
idea.
know we've done it with the splash pad before,
Yeah.
so. And the pool itself, it's not metered, but we can kind of gauge it. So,
I think that's all I have.
Anybody else have anything for James or the water sewer? Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Good luck getting back into the swing of things and
Yeah,
you're
it's
back.
gonna be a little rough, but it's gonna be better.
All right. No, Mike,
Mhm.
23 pages of sheriff's report, I see it. Did anybody have anything for Mike or did Scott and Jason, you guys have anything this month?
Well, I really have anything to report this month.
Just for that report.
I noticed we got an invoice for our signs. Did they show up already?
yeah,
Wow, that was quick.
we'll have them up, this week, yeah. We're waiting, they kind of screwed one of the sign with the information on where to get your vehicle. it came back black on white instead of red on white, so they're sending out 2 more. We'll have them all by the end of the week though. The other signs we got were for the downtown areas, the crosswalks, and we had a couple of the street marking signs that had been vandalized, tore off, so we got them back. They're not cheap, but I have them.
Yeah. All right. Nobody has anything for Sheriff Robinson, we'll move on. Item D, Parks, A committee report, Travis and Jeremy.
Really, the only thing that's been discussed is we're gonna go down with the people that did the caulking in the pool. Merritt expressed some concern that in July, after the vacuum ran, it seemed to be losing water faster. And so on Thursday, we're gonna go just walk it and see if there's anything we see as a failure on the caulking, just more of just a look. And make sure that before we fill it up, there's nothing that needs to be repaired.
Wasn't that guy from Homer? Hardington, yeah. They're probably not gonna want to come down
I've already
just
just checked.
for, they're gonna come down for an inspection, okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, they're good company.
Let's see what else we have.
I think that Robert said that they were gonna be starting on that project here shortly. He
Yeah,
talked to me about getting rid of some of the dirt and stuff before concrete, so. We discussed a strategy on that. I think they're just gonna put it in the street. We'll get rid of it when they can just. Some cones and cone it off.
perfect.
Yeah, hopefully that takes shape soon.
He had a deadline that by the 1st of June, I believe, was when this Eagle Scout project had to be done and signed off.
I think
So,
that we had initially said that we'd like to have it all done by the time the pool opened, which is generally basically the same time.
no, I agree with you. I think he just said that was his absolute,
But-
rainy weather or something happened.
Royally weekend's the last weekend in May, so.
Oh, true.
Same time,
Yeah,
yeah.
same time.
Has Merritt expressed any concern about getting stuff done? I thought school was gonna go quite a ways into May this year.
I contacted her about cleaning the pool out and she didn't express any concern. Usually they'll go on a weekend and do that. So,
Okay.
and if I can fill it 2-3 weeks before they open, that's usually only a substantial amount of time. So
I think 3 weeks before they might still be in school.
that's fine. They generally are in school still. They just do it on the weekends. So
So we have. Jeremy, anything?
No, nothing more than what is already on there for approval. So,
Let's go to the library report. Anybody have any questions or concerns there?
New format looks good. Well, good job.
They did get their application for a credit card put in, it looks like.
Yes, and the card actually came in today,
Oh, cool.
so.
She might want to they might want to reach out to Enterprise Publishing on the disintegrating stuff. Possible archival sleeves or whatever. I know that they have some
Okay.
they use over there, so. And they scan a lot of their stuff too, so I don't know if that's something they want to look at doing potentially, I don't know.
There's no other concerns with the library report. Let's move on to item C. Discussion and possible approval of resolution 4172023A. Security and event sponsor policy. So basically, this says that they either have to hire a security company or name an event sponsor and co-sponsor as the individuals responsible for monitoring the event and consumption of alcohol.
Well, that
So
was
they
good
have
with
to
the
name-
lawyer.
Yeah, I ran everything by him and
Okay.
he had a couple suggestions, but I threw those in there, so.
What if they only want to have one sponsor? Is that okay?
Well, so the idea was that there would be a co-sponsor in case for some reason the sponsor was not available, unreliable, whatever. There's somebody else that's
If we have two people that are worried, maybe things will get taken care of.
right. So like you either have the security company or two people of your party that need to be in charge of just making sure it goes okay.
And so at this time, then we would have the sheriff's department as our only approved security company until we check somebody else out, I guess,
Right.
or approve something. I like it. Does anybody have any concerns over the wording?
I'll make the motion if you're looking for one.
I want to make sure we discuss, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
No, that's kind of.
I like the looks of it. I think this is exactly what we were talking about. We put the,
Bonus on them.
yeah. I want to make sure that if anybody has any questions or
Yeah, no, I like it because it gives them the option to either hire or they're gonna be responsible themselves, which is fine.
That's
The
perfect.
the sheriff will know who to contact if there's a problem.
Don't know who goes and comes.
Yep, pretty much.
If you're ready to make a motion, go ahead.
I'll make a motion,
Were you gonna come?
Well, let him do it.
make a motion, to pass resolution 4172023A. A resolution of the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Arlington, Nebraska, considering amendment to the auditorium and community room rental agreement of the Village of Arlington, Nebraska, in order to adopt a new policy regarding event security and sponsors.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the passage of resolution 4172023A. Security and event sponsor policy. If there's no further discussion, let's vote on that motion.
Jeremy Hansen.
Aye.
Jason Weasey.
Aye.
Travis Kramer.
Aye.
Scott McCorney.
Aye.
Paul Kraus.
Aye. Move on to item D, discussion and possible approval of resolution 4172023B, damage deposit policy. So any violation of the above initialed or signed rental items. And that would be
So
the
that's
microphone.
already what's in our rental agreement, just like, I don't know, I can't even think of any of them right now, but
How much money to keep now,
yes.
which is all of it.
Yes, and that was our attorney's suggestion, because I originally had in there like, a minimum of $50 or 50% of your deposit, but he said that left too much room for like, just whatever, so
Right.
I just take
Yeah,
it all.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think this also does everything we talked about. We've got the sheriff's department can enact
Mhm.
the forfeiture. We've got music after one can enact the forfeiture alcohol outside the grounds. Cleanliness or damage, so.
Mhm.
Complaints could be 2-3 days after the event. That's the only thing I'm asking.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Cause it seems like,
Yeah,
because we're getting them a month, we're getting them a month after something.
yeah, we can't, we
So that's,
can't let it drag out that long.
well, I know, that's what I'm just
How do we-
asking. I don't know how we address that. So like typically those complaints, do they come to you, Kate, or do they go to the sheriff's office?
It depends. I think most of the time it comes to me or you guys or whoever. I'd say a lot of the time the sheriff doesn't necessarily always hear about it. However, as far as like the time frame goes, so like, I mean, Pam doesn't get in there until a few days afterwards to clean, depending on her schedule. She doesn't necessarily have a specific day unless she absolutely needs to get in there to clean before another event. So like, I mean, there is a few days. I mean, sometimes there's a week or more that, I hold on to that deposit just until I know for sure.
So should we
Everything is
say it's
fine.
a 7-day period?
We could say that, yeah. I mean, Pam is usually in there just within a couple days. So,
Does the lease agreement say when they can get their deposit back?
right
I hold it for longer than that. I hold it for 14 days, because sometimes we don't notice stuff until
That's true too.
afterwards. I hold it for 2 weeks. And that would be my,
Right now, I think it just says whenever somebody gets in there to look. And then we'll get it back to
and
them.
then it's hard to prove.
And we can change the lease agreement based on that, right? Because that would be part of the lease, not necessarily part of the resolution. Right?
I don't
Because the
think,
resolution is just there to say you're gonna lose your deposit. if you
Right.
break The lease or any of the other.
I think we can improve this a resolution with what we have tonight, if everybody's happy with that. And I think if we need to amend the timeline on the lease for holding it longer, we can do that.
Yeah,
That's probably a question for Steve, how we handle that.
The only thing that scared me is complaints either from the public or the Washington County Sheriff's Department. And when you say public, you know, they might not call you until the Monday. Let's say the shenanigans occurred on Friday or
happens
Saturday.
and we hear about it Monday
Right.
or Tuesday.
Right, that's where I was.
So. I mean,
Like if they call the Washington County Sheriff, again, they wouldn't contact you until Monday, but they'd have the
so
record.
they know, and that would be ideal, it's just, it doesn't happen. They don't call the sheriff, they don't tell us after the fact,
Sure.
which is whatever, but, so yeah, I guess I understand like.
And you have an idea who the complainers are because it's the same people, because it's the neighbors.
Yeah.
So just tell them to let you know as soon as possible if there's a problem,
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's time, so that's good too. So,
I think you guys did a great job of taking everything we were
yeah,
and pulling it into two separate ordinance, or resolution. That,
Does that include exterior or is that just inside the building?
so the,
On a different page
it
already.
just says auditorium is not
it's
clean
not clean to the standards of the rules and regulations.
and the rules and
guidelines.
regulations have and decide.
So if we have a
Yes.
problem with the
Yeah.
exterior, we can certainly add that to it.
The note would be on in the gravel parking lot, right where the pavement ends from the fire station. A large grease vat has appeared there, or well, it looks like dumped out grease, and it's a very large area. But all the events up there, I'm not saying it's one of those, somebody could have changed their oil there for all I know, but it's appeared in the last month. With all the different, like I said, I just didn't know if what you're looking at would cover. Like John says, if he goes up there 2 weeks later and there's a big grease spill across the parking lot and there was just. You know, during Lent season, there was a big fish fry or whatever there, and now there's a big grease spill out in the parking lot. I don't know that you can prove it, but you can say, I mean, what did you guys do with all the grease you used at your event? I guess, I don't know. I didn't know if this was where that would be covered or if it's in the rental agreement itself or.
I would think that our cleanliness, it would include the outside of the building, but have.
Yeah, and it specifies in there, I mean, like the inside and the outside needs to be.
That's in the rules and regulations guideline,
It is.
which gives us the freedom.
Okay,
When we say rules and regulations here. And then the other thing, we can change it anytime, which is kind of what Jeremy had talked about before too. I'll make it if you're ready.
is everybody happy with this the way it is?
So
I'll make a motion for resolution 4172023B. Resolution of the Village Board of the Trustees of the Village of Arlington, Nebraska, considering an amendment to the auditorium and community room rental agreement of the Village of Arlington, Nebraska, in order to adopt a new policy regarding damage deposits.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second for the passage of resolution 4172023B. If there's no further discussion, let's vote on that motion.
Jason Weasey.
Aye.
Travis Kramer.
I,
Scott McCorney.
Aye.
Jeremy Hansen.
Aye.
Paul Kraus.
Resolutions 4172023A and 23B. Passed and adopted this 17th day of April by majority vote. Item E, discussion and possible approval of quote from Display Sales for Highway Veteran Banner. Now, the people that bought these the first time get to keep them when they come down.
Yes,
How many are there, John? Is there 14 or is there?
there's 22.
22.
Oh,
I
okay.
can get them all ordered. We might do a second order if I can still get them, but we're ordering 14 this first go round, and I did the math because we charge $120. I think they're like 124 is actually what they cost. So out of pocket, it's like $106 we're paying, I think. the rest of the cost is recouped from whoever bought them.
I'm assuming if we got a hold of people, they let us leave them up.
Well, that's what I was wondering if there was.
The thing is that they're not in warranty anymore. They're only like, you know.
You don't want them up there.
We can't
You
replace
don't want them
them.
up there till they're getting all tattered.
Right, so yeah, look at.
So,
Vermont's on it.
I mean, I'll call and see if they want it back, or maybe they'll just want to buy a new one and.
Yeah.
You know, there's space, so.
Yep. Sales tax for the. Do you think, or is that appropriate, or?
Yeah, that's
Is that what you guys are thinking?
That's an improvement.
I think so too. I'll make a motion to accept the quote from Display Sales in the amount of $1,789 with the difference between unit price and price that patrons are paying to come out of sales tax.
second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the quote from Display Sales for highway electric banners. With the additional amount coming from sales tax. There's no further discussion. Let's vote on that motion.
Travis Kramer,
Aye.
Scott McCorney,
Aye.
Jeremy Hansen,
Aye.
Jason Weasey.
Aye.
Paul Kraus.
Aye.
And I'd maybe make the suggestion that next time before we find out exactly what the unit price is first before,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? And it's hard to tell that because you don't know how many you have. And so I get that. But maybe just let them know it might fluctuate from $120 to $130 depending on how many we get. Not that I'm upset about paying the $4 out of sales tax, but
Okay. There wasn't anything in the packet under item F, was there?
No, it was just as presented.
Okay. So that's just what we've got in front of us. Okay. Discussion and possible approval of 2023 swimming pool season rate changes as presented. No group rate. All swimmers will pay daily rate or purchase individual family passes for the season. And my understanding is that this was to prevent large groups from coming to our town because it's costing pennies compared to any other pool. And then private lesson rate increase from $70 to $80 a week.
Exactly it. One of the challenges the Merit and the team had was with large groups like that, it'd come down to even hiring more guards for a certain shift because they keep coming in with these large groups. And even with our pricing structure for group rate, it wouldn't even cover itself. So it's at some point, it just didn't make sense.
Either
to do
give
it
them
that
a
way.
normal daily rate or get a pass.
and what's been the problem that we had before with the pass? We've had one before.
So the
It
pass,
was a daycare.
there was a limit on families. I think we were.
Right. Okay. Maybe that's what it was.
I don't think we've ever had a daycare family rate.
No,
Daycare.
well,
No.
not that. I've seen.
I think in the past, we've encouraged the daycares to get family passes for their kids and that's. not
Right,
been a
and then
problem.
have the daycare work through it that way.
Yeah.
And then private lessons, same thing, is that the demand for private lessons is so high and the cost, we did give nice raises to the pool staff this year that help compensate that, cover the cost to raise the price of those. But I think we're still very competitive with surrounding communities for private and our choices with group rates, which don't exist, I think, for a lot of these now. Didn't we determine that most of them gotten rid of it?
Yeah, the group rate just really is not a thing.
Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 swimming pool season rate changes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of 2023 swimming pool season rate changes as presented. If there's no further discussion, let's vote on that motion.
Scott McCorney,
Aye.
Jeremy Hansen,
Aye.
Jason Weasey.
Aye.
Travis Kramer.
Aye.
Paul Kraus.
Aye. Item E, cemetery committee report. You guys have anything for us?
No, looks like the electrical works kind of getting completed, whether they need the one for the flag yet, or?
I stopped out and talked to them on Friday. They were, the gentleman I talked to was kind of concerned about getting the power under the road. And it looks like they might have got something shoved through there, so I didn't talk to anybody today because there was nobody out there, but it looks like they're moving forward, so hopefully in the next week or so, there's gonna be lights and stuff out there. That's
I don't know.
We'll be responsible throwing a little grass seed down where they kind of.
yeah, we'll get that all seeded in and he said something about putting a sleeve in for possibly water down the road too. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause
If
Ron was worried about.
Ron wants to put, if the Veterans Club wants to put water there, or who wants to put water there, but he said he's gonna put a sleeve in for it, so.
All right.
So the foundation was curious, is there anything else that they need money wise, do you know, or? For the project, or is it all fundraised at this point?
I think they pretty much got it.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Again, it's just so that way they can put more specific things on the website for the big give, because they found that more people are willing to give money if there's specific things to give. Or who would they contact to see if they need anything more? Lonnie or,
Yeah, either Lonnie or Miss Bell.
Okay. okay, I'll let them know.
Do that one's there probably.
Item F, administrative. Washington County Building Permit Report. Did anybody have any questions or concerns there? New construction on Ash Drive, I see. Concerns there. We'll move on to item B, clerk report.
Oh, you knew my question already. It's already on there. 24 ATV, UTV golf. cart.
No, I knew you were gonna ask, and it's actually 27 now, so. And I hired Jake Kahn today for the deputy clerk position.
What's the name?
Jake Kahn.
Okay.
Starts May 1st.
Is that with the C or a K?
CONN.
Did you have a resume for him or anything, or?
I
Okay.
hired him today, so I don't have to. I couldn't.
Oh, well, I was just curious. If you want to email that out, that'd be,
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what else cares. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious.
I'll find it, that's fine.
Yeah, thanks. And he's starting,
May 1st. He gave his notice today, so.
cool. Sounds good.
Mhm.
Thanks for the update.
I don't know if this is the appropriate place to talk about it, but we should probably add that we're checking on Odell's, how that process goes. He's got both of his trailers cleaned up.
I did visit with him, he came and talked to me at work, and he's not really pressed for getting settled up on things, he's gonna worry about tax. reason. So,
But it's probably gonna be this year that he's gonna want it, I would imagine. Well,
yeah, eventually probably, but
So did he,
so if we drag our feet, then it's gonna be next month, it's gonna be, hey, where's my money?
so did he like redo the dirt and sod it and stuff then, or not sod it, but did he put seed down? or-
I don't think
I don't
we're
think
gonna
I'm
put,
understanding.
I, when we worded that, I did not make him put seed in the
Okay.
contract.
Just,
At
just
that
kind of-
point, I just wanted to get.
right.
Done. And he said, what about seed? And I said, we didn't talk about seed at this point. So maybe we can ask him if he wants to bid that, or if John can do it, whatever you want to do. John,
I don't really have I can rent equipment to see, we usually rent Thompson's from them, but we can sure.
I have no.
So did he grade it out then, or I haven't been down there to see what,
It's half graded, it's not like it's.
but I mean, you can take it, you can do it from there or whatever we need to.
Part of it was upon your approval of the property.
And he's not completely done yet, I don't think.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I didn't drive by the other property where the one trailer was, but I did drive through where the two trailers were below the old Dairy Queen tonight, and it looks like he's got everything out of there.
Yeah.
But as far as grading it, we can take it from there on that property. Yeah.
So we'll check with Steve and see how that project needs to move forward, how that payment needs to move forward. And if we want to get bids for seeding that, we can do that. See if Odell wants to put in a bid, and I don't know who else would be local that would do that. If you can think of anybody else,
It'd probably be Jap.
okay. All right. Anything else we didn't cover on here that you wanted to talk about? Okay,
No, I don't think so. Everything's on there. That's-
Travis and I stopped down today and tried to work through some of the FEMA projects. We're gonna need John's help on a lot of them, trying to figure out where we were at.
I think you went through some of them.
They're
So when you got
they're wanting to get all that closed out. It looks like we may have to repay some grant money that some of that, I think they just award it and then you see if you can get it. And then we're gonna end up sending some back because I just don't think we can qualify for management. We didn't have management funds that they awarded us stuff for because everybody was paid on hourly or did it during the class mostly. And so, but we've got some questions over some of their documents that we're gonna see if we can get answered. Item C, discussion and possible approval to move ahead with goals, objectives, and action plan section on comprehensive plan based on current data from survey.
So we got results from our comprehensive plan survey that was sent out. Lots of good information. And I guess the next thing that we're trying to work through is I guess, what do we do with this information now? And part of the comprehensive plan, so the goals, objectives, and action plan section would kind of be the best place to put some of this information. Because it's really just like, okay, what should we prioritize to do for the next 10 years with this town or whatever. So looking at these results, like, for example, the first page, the quality of water and the swimming pool had some high, I guess, interest or like most importance. Like we could prioritize that first, or you know.
Yeah, it was a scale of 1 to 6, saying 6 is needing the most attention.
Okay.
And so, for example, quality of water got a 5.17, meaning that it had, the survey suggested the community felt it needed the most attention to approve. Compared to, say, the pool was a 4.85. Then downstream, third place was retail businesses at 3.8. And then fourth was assisted living, retirement living.
By the cemetery at 4 or 5 is higher than that. Right?
Well, the condition of the cemetery rated, that's backwards. So that one's actually on a scale of how good is the cemetery.
Oh, gotcha.
The ones should seek to improve our high number means need to improve more. And the bottom 3 are how nice are they.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry, Kate, didn't mean that.
No, that's fine.
Why I moved to them, those ones.
Some of the common themes around the retail were more food restaurants, more grocery. Looking at the most common, there was general retail. Very popular requests on that component. Golf course always makes the survey. But generally speaking, the tension of water and pool got 1 and 2.
Mhm.
Luckily, the what? I missed the.
Sorry, our quality of water was needing the most attention, and the pool was number 2. So I think the committee was kind of at a stalling point, besides updating the comprehensive plan with this data. To Kate's point, the goals section needs to have some overarching goals put into it to complete the comprehensive plan. And then I think the committee was excited about getting involved with more strategic things, very specific components of this plan, targeting retail or pool committees or whatever it is. But just dialing into more specific items.
Dollar General.
Yeah.
Another gas station, which I noticed is getting closer.
Yep.
Have they been up here to say anything?
Yeah,
They're already legal with their permit and everything.
a
They're,
couple weeks ago, he told me they'd be open in a couple weeks, but they're having problems with the waters. The line was cut and so they just fixed it but now it's leaking. Hopefully tomorrow.
was it
it'll be set.
cut right by a fiber?
No, it was cut at the meter.
Oh, interesting.
So, I don't know, hopefully soon, it'll all be set.
That's something we need to research our previous water bills for? Okay.
I don't think so.
Want to give a compliment to Nick Schreck.
Mhm.
Nick did a great job pulling these things together and put a lot of time into compiling the information.
Most of this,
He's on the foundation that you talked about it today.
Nice.
He said it thought it was good information.
So what do we need to do as far as possible approval to move ahead?
I think like general thing we were thinking of is that like. Here are the survey results. Is this enough data for us to move forward? Do we need to conduct more data gathering things, or should we just start running with this and continue with building this comprehensive plan and updating it? I guess is kind of where we're at.
I think the goal was to update the comprehensive plan with these survey results. Do you feel like we've got enough to update this?
The sample feels pretty good. There's, more data is always good, but at some point you're just going through the iterations. So I'm comfortable with it, especially since we'll write several goals. So it's not like we're picking one and that's all we're working on for 20
Right.
years.
And there's so much to put into it, but yeah.
But if we feel that we have some fairly targeted areas of putting here for our goals in the back of our comprehensive plan, we should be able to update it.
Yeah.
And the good news is most of this plan is still appropriate. So replacing some words, some literature, some stats, and then the goals page is the biggest parts.
So I would expect the next step would be that the current committee that's been meeting would take these survey results. Present the board with an update to our comprehensive plan that we would approve.
Yes.
Or
Well, I think we were asking the board more about the direction of the goals that the board wanted to set towards the back. Rather than the committee setting the goals of what we need to do for the next 20 years. Unless I misunderstood, I think that was the.
Yes, and I think, yeah, just like really wanting like board input of like, does this support the goals that we want to see for this town? Like this data that we're seeing, or, like if we use this data to implement our goals, is that something that like, as a consensus, we would agree upon?
So if we're following the data, it says that we need to put a real focus on water, the swimming pool, and retail businesses. If we're following the data, that's what it says. And that's why we're here saying, do you feel that's appropriate?
I have a hard time with the water.
So I'm like,
I have.
are these people that were here 20 years ago? Because if they were here 20 years ago,
Bad
I'll
water.
tell you what, this water's a lot better now than it was 20 years ago.
I think there's a perception that maybe has something to do with the price of our water.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had one customer last week. We've had a situation with brown water that happens when you flush lines. I don't know what we can do. I don't know. To me, that seems like not the most important thing that
Is it worth at least putting into our comprehensive plan to take it serious at least? And then we can work with people services to see if there's other things we can consider doing. Or at least get some better benchmarks against other communities to determine how bad or good are we?
I think benchmarks against other communities is probably an important thing because I know there's other communities that are paying as much for water as we are, if not more. And
I didn't agree with you in every comment. Was there an emphasis on anybody with streets? Because that's where we seem to be spending a lot of our money right now.
that's the one I heard most. It's surprising me that.
There's streets in here too, the comments, absolutely, there's a bunch, so that's, again, most of them are kind of right in line where we've been.
I mean, as an employee that works with the streets every day and as a citizen, I think that would be a higher priority than water, but I could be wrong. I drink the water and I'm fine.
Haven't grown any horns or
Every
anything.
day, I'm not scared to drink it every day. So I don't know, do we want to mull over this for a month? And what's your thought? You guys on the committee, what's your thought?
If they will, we keep plugging along, so that's why I put it on the agenda tonight. To keep things rolling.
Is this something that's looked at when we go to apply for a bond or anything like that? I mean, is this something that's looked at, or I think it is.
I know that state requires us to have one
Yeah.
comprehensive plan. How, I don't know if they're pulling it out and going, aha, you didn't say something or not. I don't know if that's the case, but
I think funding is a lot of times tied to, do you have an updated plan? When did you update it?
Yeah.
And that's why we're
That's
here.
why I asked if we.
Which was-
And there's a lot for grants, so it's just.
Well, and then that, your comprehensive plan then helped us create our strategic plan that time with what's her name?
Yeah.
And then we did all of that to hopefully get funding for this building and then that all kind of.
That was a big part of that
But I
grant
think-
we were
yeah,
looking for
yeah.
this building.
Yeah.
I'm okay with everything in there, except I just don't understand the water one. And maybe I'm not seeing things that other people are seeing, but my perception is maybe it's price that people are complaining about. I don't.
Does the quality change at all from location in town?
Well, I know people from this end to that end of town, and I don't hear people that tell me they will not drink the water because it's brown, like 20 years ago. Happened frequently. Does anybody have those kinds of problems where they think the water's unsafe to drink or look at, or? I guess that's what I don't,
No.
that's what I don't understand.
My guess from what I hear is more along the lines cost, right?
That's my biggest complaint that I hear is the cost.
And to me, I don't know if it's as much, I mean, yes, when we flush, we get, that happens, right? And I think it just brings back all this negative memory that I think it's still bad,
The only other one.
even though it lasts
Right, the only
a
other.
day.
Maybe
you know.
improving our waters does include education on, here's how things work in other towns, here's what other people are paying. These are the kinds of issues. Everybody thinks because you get brown water when you flush the lines, that all of our lines are antique and need to be replaced. Well, I think you get that in any town with new lines, with plastic lines. When you flush lines, there's sediment in the water.
Well, one of the big concerns, I think, is from when I worked at the school, at the beginning of every school year, you would see brown water up there. Well, that's because there was no water
Being used.
moved during the whole summer. And then now all of a sudden they have this big influx. Well, yeah, now that brown stuff is showing up in the drinking water and showing up in the toilet. And
Maybe we need to
whatever, so-
leave water as a high priority, but maybe it's not fixing quality of water. Maybe it's educating, maybe it's. Cause I think even if we pull every line out in town right now, you would still have sediment issues with all new lines.
And that's fair. We can put it on as a goal to continue to improve the quality of the
And I'm
water.
not saying there's nothing that needs to be improved, but let's look at it. Let's see what need, if there is need.
And if it's cost, it could be related to our cost of losing water, broken lines, all the things that keep our water bills expensive. There's lots of ways we can approach that between sewer lines, water lines, managing our expenses. So if you guys are comfortable kind of with the results, with the heaviest focus to, I shouldn't say heaviest focus, with making sure we're paying plenty of attention to the community's response. And we worked from there down. Again, it doesn't mean that we don't focus on any of them, just that we put as much attention on the top ones that we do the bottom. I'm comfortable with where we're at and to keep going with it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with moving ahead, dig deeper into these numbers and see what the numbers really mean and try and figure out why some of these numbers are so high and what we can do to change that.
Okay, I think we have enough to go with.
All right. Item D, discussion and possible approval of Ben Nissen's resignation from the planning commission. You said he just didn't have enough time, was his problem. So we'll have to advertise if we accept that resignation. Through all of our normal avenues. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion. I'll motion to approve the resignation of Ben Neeson.
We have a motion and we have a motion and a second for the approval of Ben Nissen's resignation. With regret, I would hope, from the planning commission.
I'm gonna vote yes on that, but I gotta go fire.
Jason Macy,
Yes.
Travis Kramer,
Yes.
Scott County,
Yes.
Jeremy Hansen,
Yeah.
Paul Gross.
Yes. Item E, discussing personnel matters. There's something we would need to go into executive session. Is this a specific matter that we need to?
I just added it on there, because I know Jason had been asking the last 2 meetings for the exit interview.
Okay,
Just give you the opportunity.
wait till he
Talk
comes
about
back and see if he wants to go in the executive session. Thanks, John. Do we want to?
I've got copies, so either or. I also send them out via email, so it's up to, we can quickly talk about it. I would give the motion if we wanted to.
Adjourn or go into executive session, which one?
Let's adjourn. I've sent them out. People can follow up with that questions.
Okay,
And Jason was okay with that. I talked to him just for seconds before the meeting and he was okay with just send it and we can talk later.
all right. Unless anybody had any reason to go into executive session. Say we could accept a motion for adjournment.
Make the motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Have a second. And a second. Let's vote on that motion.
Travis Kramer,
Hi.
Scott McCorney, Jeremy Hansen,
Aye.
Paul Grouse,
Ask him if he wants.
Jason Macy,
Would you like to adjourn? Yep.
Paul Grouse.
Yes. Is it the bill?
I guess.
Is it the VO phone number?